Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Incident Response Cafe. You have your two hosts, myself, Cam Shrikant, with the solutions team here at AlertOps, and joining me is Bob Crum, our VP of Technology. Hi, Bob.
Hello,
Thanks for joining.
everybody. Hey, Cam.
Cool. So today, really what we're going to be focusing on is kicking off a new segment within our incident response cafes, which are trends in incident response, things that we see in the ecosystem, things that are starting to gain quite a level of adoption and becoming the new norm as far as IT operations, DevOps teams, service management, etc. So specifically today, what we're going to be talking about are chat tools in incident response. This notion of chat ops has taken off and it's starting to do quite a bit. It's not just another form of communication that replaces email. It is essentially your switchboard or your go-to place for your incident communications and operations. With that said, Bob, how are you kind of noticing chat ops and the value of chat ops in the space today?
Sure. So, first of all, we see it, of course, in incident response. So, Cam, can you fill us in a bit about sort of trends in incident response with chat?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things is that chat channels are being very regularly tied to specific teams or specific incidents. So throughout the course of a major incident, for example, you might want a dedicated chat channel opened up automatically for that major incident. So a group contact method, and then that group has the ability to collaborate within the chat channel. We've got the ability to record all that information and streamline incident communication with that single pane visibility.
So Cam, in the chat, in the context of major incident or any incident, really, what about the record keeping? How does that benefit incident response?
Yeah, it's very beneficial, purely because now we have a lot of chat tools and collaboration tools that also have inbuilt meetings and the context of being able to capture the logs of what was said during that meeting. But then additionally, that audit trail of communication between people within the same team or different teams, it starts to become immensely beneficial when talking about root cause analysis or postmortem. So that process of filling out a postmortem report no longer has to entail jumping into three different monitoring tools, one ticketing system, an alerting system, and then taking a look at your emails. At this point, it's all in one place.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that we're seeing, Cam, is stakeholders. A lot of corporations, organizations in general, are using chat channels for everything. So, tell us a little bit about how we're seeing that now in incident response with stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, right, just with my own work with managed service providers, I think that it's become fairly commonplace for VIP clients or even as a standard operating procedure that when an incident happens, when something goes down for a particular client, that client is on a Teams channel or in a Slack group with a member of the on-call team or with the service desk team as a whole. So that already exists kind of as a trend and as a process through which MSPs use that particular tool to communicate with their customers. Now, in incident response, that starts to become even more beneficial just from an operational perspective. One, you're automating the process of communication and widespread visibility to that affected customer. Outside of that, though, you're ensuring that your operations team actually have time to resolve the issue. They don't have to look at the service board for five different people creating five different tickets for the exact same issue that they're already aware of. Making sure everyone's on the same page is simply put, simplifies things.
Sure. Now, we talked a bit about the older trends, teams. What about teams outside of the incident response? Um, Customer service, other teams. How do you see them being sort of woven into the incident response pattern with chat?
Absolutely. So it really depends on the nature of the incident. Depending on the level of impact of the incident, who needs to be notified, who needs to actually be aware. With that said, though, they really act very similar to clients. They're almost internal clients in the sense that they have some level of stake in the function of a service, in the function of an application. If something goes down, they may not be the person that's logging into a portal and is impacted, but they may be the person that's going to be asked by one of their clients why something's not working. So being able to provide succinct distinct visibility in those specific groups. So the customer success channel might have a different message than the DevOps channel, than your actual end client. So the distinct communication, as well as delineating between different channels for each one of them, allows us to, one, segment the messaging, but then two, still provide that level of widespread communication that prevents a customer success department from reaching out to the ops team 10 times throughout the course of an incident.
Sure. Or even in retail, that
Yeah.
stores can be kept up. Okay, what about trends in alerting now? We used to see voice, SMS. How is chat changing
Yeah.
alerting?
So the landscape of that, I think that from an on-call perspective, there's really nothing that's going to move away from a phone call or a text message, right? An email is just not going to wake you up at 2 a.m. when there's a critical issue. With that said, though, the prior kind of framework by which most organizations used to operate hinged around this notion that they would really only receive alerts when they're on call. And during business hours, they don't care about anything because the assumption is someone or everyone is looking at their service board, or everyone's taking a look at their monitoring tool, or is actively monitoring their email. But that's really shifted. Now chat tools are starting to become kind of this single source of record and single source of operations throughout the course of the business day. So what I see pretty frequently is, from an alerting standpoint, people still want the on-call escalations, but during business day, they still want notifications just purely from their chat channel. That way they can interact from that chat channel. That way they can create tickets from that chat channel. All of their operations are consolidated into this single platform.
Interesting. And then finally, talk about how is it helping to break down silos?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that from a silo perspective, that goes back to both of the concepts that we discussed from an internal versus external client, right? So whether it is an interdepartmental silo or between an organization and their client, breaking down information silos in the most simple manner possible. Everyone that needs to know something is a part of that channel. And every message that needs to go to that group of people is posted in that channel. You can reply to it, you have a track of communication, and you can essentially see with complete visibility an audit trail of your actual messaging, right? So who said what in response to what action was taken as a byproduct of this particular trigger, as a byproduct of this particular prompt. So all of that information essentially breaks down the need for one team to ask another team for additional information. It's all right there.
Cool. Good stuff.
Awesome. So yeah, as we move forward, we're going to definitely see, I think, chat tools becoming a staple in most incident response organizations, as well as staple in most incident response processes. But with that said, really appreciate the time, everyone, for taking a look at chat tools in incident response.